What is up, Loren? Welcome to the show.
Thank you,
man.
Appreciate it.
Always good to have you on the show. It's been a hot minute. Joey is out tonight, a little under the weather, so we asked him just to kick it at the house. So he'll probably definitely check this out in post production. But so Joey's out tonight. Lauren's in, but that's fine because there are very few people in this shop I would call in and say, "Hey, man, let's talk some Star Wars," and you're one of those guys, if not the guy. Because I know for a fact your two big franchises are Amazing Spider-Man and Star Wars. So there we are. So tonight we're talking Star Wars, man. So what's up, buddy?
Yeah, look, I'm low-hanging fruit.
In a lot of ways.
Said, hey, you want to come talk Star Wars and maybe a little Ahsoka? I'm your guy. So I appreciate it. I enjoyed the last time and looking forward to working our way through this.
I know Joey's bummed because I think he really wanted to kind of get into, you and I know more than he does because we've watched more shows, but or we've gotten into like more of the weeds with Clone Wars and some of the other stories. But I think he was really interested, like really kind of bouncing some questions off it. So I know he's kind of bummed not being here, but we'll get through it. You and I will figure this stuff out. We finished last week's show. We sat down as a group. We're like, man, we got to kind of streamline our conversation. So we said, let's just talk one thing. And I said, let's talk Ahsoka. It's the thing that's going on right now. We do this on Sunday night. Show comes out on Tuesday nights. So we're about a week behind. The internet's had a whole week to really kind of break down episode 5 and all the little Easter eggs and all the little things and nuances. But we're going to talk about those things and kind of get into the weeds a little bit. Not so much on do we like the show. We'll talk about that a little bit because Matt's had his opinion, which he is very happy to tell us about. And we'll bring into
Matt has opinions.
Oh no. Which we love. Matt's
absolutely.
Matt has had a couple of conversations about it. He's finally caught up on it, so that's good. And I really wanted to talk the show with somebody because it's. I think it was slow out of the gate. But I really got this last episode. Really kind of does bring a lot to the forefront that really kind of like people. All right, we got to unpack this, and all these Clone Wars and Rebels fans are just loving it. They're loving it. So
it was Matt asked me just a few minutes ago to rank Clone Wars, put it 0 to 10, how I would rank that. 8.5.
The Clone Wars show?
The Clone Wars, the series.
Okay.
I gave it, it's a Star Wars fan. I probably give that about an 8.5.
Really?
Really love it. And then Rebels is probably close to a 10 for me. So this episode of Ahsoka really hit a lot of buttons for me. And then I also, when the show first came out, my opinions of just kind of the character of Ahsoka, not the actress, Matt, the character. It didn't feel very Clone Wars like.
So that's now the conversation. So, yeah. Yes, I'm like you. I actually, I don't know how you did this. I don't know how your pathway, this. I watched Rebels in real time when it was on Disney XD, right? And I watched it every week. I had to wait. All right, Rebels is out this week, and you watch a 22-minute episode, and you got to wait another week to see another one, and that was always tough. But I really was digging this show. For me, it was at a time when, Disney had just acquired Star Wars, and we're all on edge anyway. Oh my gosh, somebody's buying our franchise. Not Disney. Of course it's Disney. All right, but we're all in this Force Awakens. We were excited about this. Luke and Han and Leia were going to come back. We're all geeked and all this stuff, and then Rebels comes out, and it's like, man, this is the time period we want to know about. It's the time before,
that's right.
A New Hope comes out. So I'm really excited about this show, and I really got into the characters. Of course, my first thought is another Jedi. No, 2 Jedis. There's 2 Jedis in this show. They're all supposed to be dead. What's going on here? But of course, after 4 seasons, you love these characters.
Oh, they're great.
I mean, they're fantastic. So first time I watched, we watched the Rebels. I watched Rebels, I didn't watch Clone Wars until COVID, because for me, when Episode 3 ended, I was really on Star Wars burnout at this point, especially with the collecting figures and all that stuff, and I was just on burnout. And I think David Tartakovsky, if I say that right, probably butchered that name, but he put out that little micro episodes that he had of which were in that Samurai Jack style animation, and I was like, what in the hell is this? What is this? I was like, I'm not watching this. I think I watched like an episode or two and I was like, I'm out, and so for me in my head, that was the Clone Wars. I was like, this is the Clone Wars show. I was like, okay, great. And then I think the movie came out, and I was like, I watched that movie somewhere. I think I got a DVD copy of it and watched it. And I was like, oh, this is. And I thought that was it. I honestly didn't realize, because I got out of it. There were 5 seasons of this stuff at the one point, and I was like, okay. So I just never really went back to it. In my head, it was always until Rebels came out. And then I started really doing some research and Dave Filoni and all this stuff, but it wasn't until COVID I sat down and actually watched all 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it going, man, these shows aren't even in order. I was like, didn't that guy die in season 1? Yep. Then I got online and was like, yeah, there's actually like a map you can follow of where you can watch them in sequence. Yeah. Because so much happens during that time. And I do think like in time wise, it's what, 5 years?
Yeah.
The Clone Wars is around 5 years. Like
right,
there's like 5 years between episode 2 and episode 3.
Something like that.
5 or 6 years, something like that. Yeah. So there's a lot that happens in Clone Wars anyway, but I didn't ever see it until after I watched all 4 seasons of Rebels. And Rebels during that time period, Force Awakens came out, Rogue One came out, because you got,
which was great,
which was fantastic, because there were some shout outs to the Ghost was in,
correct,
Chopper was in it, Hera was in it. Yeah, there's the Ghost. I got the
stop it.
Yeah, I got it.
Stop.
It's coming.
I got it in Lego. So.
Yeah, it's all right.
There you go.
I'll let you look at it.
No, thanks.
Anyway, but that show for me was like a lot to unpack. And I knew when Ahsoka showed up as Fulcrum in Rebels, I was like, I knew what they were. I knew what was going on. They were
right.
Then Rex shows up, and all these characters, Hondo, Saw Gerrera, even like were popping in from the Clone Wars.
Yep.
So it was like stuff you had to follow. This sort of leading up to the conversation you had with Matt.
Yeah.
So for all of us who had watched Rebels, had watched Clone Wars, seeing Ahsoka in live action in The Mandalorian season 2 was like, yes, okay, Ahsoka's going to show up. Of course, we were a little bit like, man, this girl's kind of stoic. We're not dealing. Her portrayal is not the bubbly, fun Ahsoka we're used to. But it was still cool. And then was it season 3 of Mandalorian? We saw Zeb.
Yep.
Now we're gearing up. All right, he's bringing them in. We're all excited.
Please give me Zeb and Ahsoka.
Gotta have it. It's got to show up at some point. I will be upset. But we're getting, geared up for the show. We've been waiting for it ever since season 3 of Mandalorian. And we're excited about Sabine. We knew Hera was going to be in it. Chopper's going to be in it. I hadn't really thought about this, but it just made a lot of sense that Jason was going to be in it.
Yeah, of course.
Because he doesn't even show up until the last 5 seconds of the whole series.
That's correct.
Which, interesting enough, he's probably going to be interesting to see where they take that character.
Well, he's definitely got the Force in him.
Yes, he does.
Last episode, and I was the last episode I probably had somewhat of an epiphany with my how I enjoy Ahsoka in the Ahsoka series right now, because I think I was not, the way they were portraying her is not bubbly and kind of smart alecky a little bit, kind of that teenager, kind of
Well, she's not 14 anymore,
right? But I also think I forgot of how much weight Anakin's journey has placed on her, right? And how much she is burdened by what he became. And I think in the last episode, obviously she faced that somewhat, and I think that like post her coming out of the world between worlds, she was looked like she was more at peace, obviously, and I'm sure we're going to get into that in a minute.
Right. Well, I mean, that's really the gist of episode 5,
and that was great for me
because up until episode 5, everybody was saying, "Oh, I don't like the stoic Ahsoka. I don't like the way, Rosario Dawson's portraying her. Filoni's what's going on? She's not our." There was all this negativity about how she was going on, but we're not thinking about it like that. We're just thinking, our minds go from here to here, and we're thinking Ahsoka should be this character, right? Now, this is a completely different conversation when it comes to Luke Skywalker. We're not going to talk about that one.
I'm looking at Luke. But
I know, but I'm just saying, Luke had a 30-year, almost a 30-year journey between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, or The Last Jedi, and his character, I still don't think would have taken that direction, because when we last saw Luke, he was on top, Yeah. Now, when we last see Ahsoka before The Mandalorian, well, let's take away the scene at the end of Rebels where she picks up Sabine. It shows up in episode 1 of the show. When we last see Ahsoka, Ezra has pulled her out of the world, pulled her into the world between worlds.
That's
so we've seen the world between worlds several times throughout Rebels. You see it. You really see it in that episode where Ezra's in there and the Emperor's kind of trying to get him to pull him in, so he can control it. And Matt's back there going, "What the hell are they talking about?" But it pops up several times if you go back and rewatch Rebels, where he and Kanan go to that temple, and then he sort of disappears.
That's correct.
And he's in there and he's talking to Yoda.
That's right.
And it sort of gives him a place to kind of have these conversations that's outside of time and space. And so Ezra is familiar with this place, more so than Ahsoka is, more so than any of the other Jedis. But yet until this episode pops up, you're like, the last time we saw her, she was fighting, really saw her in action. She was fighting Darth Vader on Malachor, and they... we don't know what happened to him. There was this
pyramid just dropped
collapsed
down.
on him, and we don't. We didn't know what happened to him. We know Darth Vader didn't die, but at the time it could have been that excuse. Ahsoka wasn't around when the original trilogy was going on. But last time we saw her, the last thing she says is, "I'm not leaving you. I'm not leaving this time." I think it's a big statement, because you got to think, when Ahsoka at the end of Clone Wars, she consciously makes a decision to walk away from not just the Jedi Order, but from Anakin.
Yep.
All right. And then, what happens next? Now, they sort of retcon us a little bit in season 6 when they brought it back, and he gives her the new lightsabers, and she goes to Mandalore and sort of takes on one last mission. But in her head, I left Anakin, I left the Jedi Order. And then all this stuff happens. He turns to the dark side, he becomes Darth Vader, and then he is basically responsible for destroying everything she knows and cared about. The one person she was closest to, like her father, right? So when that happens, that's, you see that scene of her kind of alone, and it's there's nothing, she's broken,
Right.
They don't really show that a lot in Rebels, though. She's sort of she's not really doing Jedi stuff in Rebels as much as she's being a rebel,
Right.
Yeah.
She's kind of being a leader.
Yeah, she's being that sort of a mentor type.
With, Rex.
Yeah,
they have a moment.
Yeah, but when Ahsoka, she just from that point on at the end of the Clone Wars, she feels like if she just stayed, maybe Anakin wouldn't have done what he did. So think about the weight of that.
Well, I think that when you think about passing stuff from Master to Padawan, and I think it was Clone Wars when I was watching it recently. I've been watching a lot lately. And she does have the seed of the dark side in her, right? Because that's what was passed down to, it kind of flows from Anakin to her. And I think when Anakin turns and Order 66 and all that, I think that she's blaming herself, right? Kind of like what you said. And I think that that's part of maybe her struggle with not turning dark, right? And I think that you see that. It didn't really show up in Rebels, but I think you definitely see that some with it's her guilt is driving her in Ahsoka and why she's stoic, and maybe because that's her way of fighting it.
So there's also a couple things too in this episode. One, the scenes that they choose to flash back to.
Right.
I've seen some conflicting. I feel like there's some conflicting information about which is that first battle. Mm-hmm. There's some. It looks like the Battle of Ryloth,
mm-hmm.
but which is an important episode in the Clone Wars because it's the first time Ahsoka gets her own mission,
mm-hmm.
and she botches it. Mm-hmm. Like she gets her whole
they die
squadron killed because she disobeys an order.
Correct.
Or she thinks she can do something that she can't, which is very Anakin of her, But so that whole episode is all about her learning that as a Jedi, you got to make decisions and they got consequences. Right. But at the same time, like you got to have the confidence to lead these troopers into battle. And so a lot of that starts back then. It's like she's like, I don't want to have this responsibility. I didn't want to be a soldier. I wanted to be I wanted to be a Jedi, not a fighter. So if you think about the progression they went through,
mm-hmm.
now this is going to lean too heavily into Matt's argument, which I don't disagree with. That like Filoni's really having to explain what's going on here. You know what I mean? And that Ahsoka has ever since she became a Padawan has been fighting.
Correct.
That's why she makes the comment, I don't want to keep fighting.
She want another war.
I don't want to keep doing this.
Right.
And that's her motivation to go find Thrawn.
Yeah.
And which is like, I've always kind of been questioning that since day one. I was like, why is she so obsessed with finding Thrawn?
Yeah.
And really what it comes down to, she just doesn't want to fight anymore.
That's right.
She wants to prevent another fight.
Yeah.
Another big fight, because she's already been through 2 major wars in her lifetime.
Right.
She doesn't want a third.
Yeah.
But if you really kind of break down what Anakin's trying to teach her, all right, Anakin is teaching her the lesson that his son taught him,
mm-hmm.
which is I choose not to fight.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can choose this.
Yeah, 100%.
But
choose to live.
I can choose to live. And I think what that means is I can choose to live, like it doesn't always have to be, terrible.
Right.
I don't have to live in a world where it's, there's constant battling, constant all this stuff.
Yeah. Which brings her peace.
Yes. Well, if she throws his lightsaber away, same thing Luke did on the Death Star to the Emperor. He's like, no.
Yeah. I'm not fighting.
I don't have to kill him.
Yeah.
I'm a Jedi.
Yeah.
No, ain't nothing you can do to me.
Yeah.
But you got to think that's Ahsoka's passing the test to be a Jedi. She never did that.
Correct.
She never passed the trials.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody calls her a Jedi, but
she never finished her Jedi training.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that's why Anakin wanted to do. That's the whole thing was, I'm finishing your training, which I thought was interesting. There's a couple things I would have been like, bro, you became a Sith Lord and jacked up the whole galaxy. What is the deal?
Yeah.
That's where I would have. That's when she only sort of admitted, she goes, man, you were so more dangerous than anybody realized. He goes, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, but
yeah, bro, you were the Darth.
Is that Anakin though, or is that Ahsoka's? Is that something going on in the world between worlds? It's more Ahsoka's own conscience because he's not a ghost, right? So,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I said this, like in the world between worlds, are you a ghost? Because like in the real world, you're a ghost.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe he's a ghost.
Well, I think there's some parallels here to some Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons I told Matt to queue up some Lord of the Rings stuff. In Lord of the Rings, there is an unseen world.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we get glimpses of it when Frodo puts on the ring. All right. Or that's where the ring wraiths sort of exist, is in this unseen world. And I think I can see Dave Filoni pulling from some of that, from Tolkien, in the sense that there is this space that most of us can't see, but it does exist and it's always there. And if you can access it now in Lord of the Rings, it's kind of a dark place.
Yeah.
It's like, a place you don't really want to be in. Yeah. But with this one, it's definitely, Yeah, I pulled that up for another reason specifically,
Right.
because of who Ahsoka becomes at the end.
Sure.
So I do think that's where they are, and I think Anakin is real
Right.
as he can be at that point, because he's on the battle of he's at the siege of Mandalore, and he goes, I don't remember this war. She's like, we'd already broken up. We already went our separate ways at this point.
Yeah.
And you weren't here.
But what if
you were busy becoming Darth Vader?
So Anakin's the chosen one.
Mm-hmm.
What if once he dies, and he obviously when he died, he became at peace with himself. He turned back to the light. So if he's the chosen one, what if he has different abilities once he leaves than a traditional Jedi that's a ghost?
I think that's
what if he can pass in between now?
I think that's something that all of them can do, because, they tease it up a little bit. That's something that Yoda,
right,
at the end of the Clone Wars, he went off to the outer edge of space, pretty much.
Right.
That's probably where Ezra is, and spoke to those true Force users out there,
Mm-hmm.
and learned how to, become part of the living Force,
Right.
Which Qui-Gon did on his own,
right.
That's how he connects to Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And that's how they start. And then he passes that knowledge on to Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
How the heck Anakin got that? We don't know, because he was a Force ghost too at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but maybe he can be a Force ghost, and maybe he can be something else. I'm just saying, if he's the chosen one, he's the
I'm
chosen
not
one,
really stuck on
and
that part right now.
But if he's the most powerful Jedi ever, then maybe he can do things that the others
Maybe
can't.
he can. They don't really explain a lot of that.
I know.
Maybe we'll get into that later.
That's why it's fun.
I don't know. That's why it's fun. I think season 2.
Hopefully.
There is not any doubt in my mind there's going to be another season of this, because there's too much left to unpack and only one episode left.
Yeah.
They're going to wrap it all up in 45 minutes.
It's 6 episodes, I'm pretty sure. Right, Matt? 6 episodes?
No. There's 3 more episodes.
3 more episodes.
Really? So there's 8 episodes.
Yes.
Oh, so then
Seven.
I thought it was 6 too.
I
So
thought it
then
was
maybe
6.
they will unpack it all.
Yeah, 6 looks like it 8 a little bit, I guess.
So anyway, I don't know. I think he's a goat. I think he's just, it's in the world between worlds. It exists outside of real time.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I think he chooses to go there and be what he wants to be because of how strong he is. Now, and then in that part, that's why he's finishing her training and then helping her to become at peace with him.
Okay, truthfully though, I don't know where all this is going. And the reason I say that is because we've seen this disaster called the sequels, right? Where most people don't even remember Jedis and the Force. None of that stuff, because Rey's like,
Right.
the Jedi were real.
Right.
And that whole, my hope, and I hate this because what a ruined opportunity with CGI when they can do whatever they want. With AI, they can do whatever they want to now. My hope is they put the sequels in the trash can the way they did the old canon. Just get rid of it. Because, whatever Filoni's doing has been so much better.
Well, maybe he can clean it up like he did the prequels.
I think that's the idea.
I would love for him to do some type of Clone Wars animated something just to clean all that up. I don't know what he would do to clean it up, but because
I don't know, man. I think it's terrible.
that could be a whole
The
nother
sequels
hour
were terrible.
conversation.
It was so bad.
I'm just, yeah.
I remember being really unhappy with the prequels.
Yeah.
But at least that was still Star Wars.
Right. Well, think about how much better the prequels got once you watch Clone Wars.
They do. That is the one thing about Clone Wars. After I watched all 5 seasons, the original 5 seasons, the episode 1 and 2 became much better. Though Anakin's turn to the dark side became much more of a thing for me. Because it kind of seemed rushed, if you just watch the movies. But if you watch all these seasons, you get this whole 5 seasons of this relationship between him and Obi-Wan, or Obi-Wan and him as being soldiers, which you don't see much of, in the movies. And I think it's exciting to see that.
Well, and how much Ahsoka plays into that.
Ahsoka's a big part of it.
Yeah. Huge.
Of course, the tried and trues, like my friend Brian will definitely argue that it's a Dave Filoni forcing himself into the whole thing, But George Lucas is the one that came up with Ahsoka.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you watched that short. Yeah, we did. We watched it in here, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do think with this show, I think one of the things, like, I think the important takeaway here is, and we can break this whole episode down, but the important takeaway is that Ahsoka has a transformation here, which is why I was like, cue up that Gandalf thing, Matt.
Here we go.
It cannot be. You fell.
Through fire and water. From the lowest dungeon to the highest peak, I fought him, the Balrog of Morgoth. Until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin upon the mountainside. Darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. Stars wheeled overhead, and every day was as long as a life age of the earth. But it was not the end. I felt life in me again. I've been sent back until my task is done. Gandalf? Yes. That was what they used to call me. Gandalf the Grey. That was my name. Gandalf. I am Gandalf the White. And I come back to you now. At the turn of the tide.
All right, so, I gotta echo. Gotta mute this.
You there? No, you had it. There you go.
There we go. Still got it. All right, so you're not as into Lord of the Rings as I am, so we talk about this a lot.
Wait a minute. Nobody is into Lord of the Rings.
That's not true.
I mean,
that is 100%.
You're in the top 1%.
No,
okay?
I don't think so.
I've watched Lord of the Rings. I enjoyed it. I've watched, I watched The Hobbit and done all that.
So I think, Star Wars is always pulled from other sources,
Sure.
just to be what it is.
Yeah.
And I do think Filoni has kind of reached into the Tolkien legendarium here and pulled out this particular moment because, this is a big turn for this character who is supposed to guide the rest of these people, into a new age, essentially, of Middle Earth. So I kind of see this is where they're maybe going with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And he does it visually too, because up until this point, she's wearing gray.
Yes, she is.
She's wearing gray in Mandalorian.
Yep.
And in Clone Wars, she wore the little brown outfit, and there. And in Rebels, that's what she had more color. Yeah,
There you go.
she had a little more color to what she was doing. Right there. But in Ahsoka, grab that figure back there. Her costume's a little more gray. See?
They just want to sell me more
They
figures.
totally want to sell you more figures. It's all.
I'll buy them.
But I do think that in with the transformation when she comes out of this is like she's wearing white now.
Yeah,
and it's one of the most obvious things at the end.
Yeah.
It's like her personality is different. She's smiling again.
That's correct. I was so happy.
And that's what they did in Lord of the Rings. Gandalf was there for a task. He had a purpose. I don't want to get into the weeds of why. What Gandalf is and why he was there. Yeah. All right.
Table that for its own show.
It's a whole different show. But essentially what it is that when he sacrifices himself for the good of the Fellowship, he's sent back and to and he's basically sent back to replace Saruman as the White. So I think there's a little bit of the elements of that with Ahsoka.
So you're assuming that she died.
Yes, and you got to think too. I don't think
It'll be the second time she died.
so. Yeah, I kind of want to unpack this a little bit. I don't know if Matt wants to chime in on this. Matt, you're into Lord of the Rings, right? Ish.
I just want to let you know that on the screen behind you, I'm illustrating that somebody else went from gray to white, gray to white.
That's a little bit of a.
just saying.
That's like taupe, isn't it? That's not really great.
Yeah.
Dirty. It just feels like she just needs to throw it
I
in the washing
never saw
machine.
that as great.
Like-
Keep coping.
Like, do they have wash machines on the Falcon?
That's
Maybe
actually a
she-
good question.
Maybe she washed her clothes. I don't know.
Do they have washing machines in Star Wars?
I don't know.
They all seem to wear the same outfit.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I hope so.
Anyway, I do think this is the visual representation. But anyway, in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf's body dies. But technically, when like an elf dies in Middle Earth, they're sent to the Undying Lands, and there they stay until the end of time. All right, like they await judgment literally till the end of the world. All right.
Okay.
When a man dies in Middle Earth, all right, they go straight to be with Eru Ilúvatar, all right, the god figure. Gandalf's neither one of those things. Gandalf is something completely different. Gandalf's sort of a demigod. He's sort of like, an angel demigod type kind of a being. So they can kind of be whatever they want to be. So when he dies in body and spirit. But when he comes back, he's completely different.
See, that's what I.
See what I'm saying?
That's what I say. Anakin does.
And I can appreciate that argument, because obviously when a Jedi, we always assumed growing up that when a Jedi died, they just disappeared, like Yoda died or Obi-Wan died. Anakin didn't disappear when he died. He had to be burned, just like Qui-Gon. They didn't just vanish, right? So, in our heads, we never probably toiled around much that what goes on.
I think they had to burn the bad out of Anakin for him to come back.
Well, no.
Well, that's true. That's Never mind.
That was redeemed through Luke.
Or maybe burn his
machine
part.
Which what makes Last Jedi terrible is that Luke always beyond any hope believed he could turn his dad back to being good.
That's correct.
And that was the story, right? So I think that Ahsoka didn't have that hope. She didn't carry that hope the way Luke did.
She carried a burden.
She felt responsible for it.
Yeah.
She felt responsible for this. So this was about Ahsoka's transformation, just like Gandalf's. There was a spiritual,
right?
And obviously when she changed clothes, there's a sort of a physical representation, but there was a spiritual transformation of who she is, and now she's something different.
Yeah, but Snips, I didn't expect to see you this soon. So it's like he's waiting on her.
Well, he does say, he says that you can choose to die or choose not to.
Well, that's that's on into it a little bit, but again, I think that this is just speculation because this is fun. So it's probably also a regret for Anakin, right? So when he dies, he understands that he's got to help his Padawan become Jedi, become who she's meant to be. And
they're in that last two things for me. One, if you go back and watch Clone Wars, some of the episodes, Anakin didn't want a Padawan to begin with.
He did not.
He didn't want a Padawan. No. And so he had to learn to be a teacher to somebody. So on some levels, I think that's sort of what he kind of tries to do at the end of the last season, when he gives her the new lightsabers and tells her to go to Mandalore and help.
Right.
I think one of the things he does there is tries to rectify some mistakes he made as a teacher.
Sure.
And maybe, you got to think Anakin made the biggest mistake of all. And so now coming back into it, he's like, this is my way of redeeming myself much too. So
Sure.
who knows? Maybe he's doing penance
Yeah, well, I mean,
on the afterlife. We don't know.
doing a tour.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, man, you got to.
Everybody, he's wrong. He's going to go make it right.
That'd be a lot of people.
Yeah.
Long list of people. Come here,
sorry.
Lando. Let me talk to you.
I'm sorry, family of sand people,
Yeah. Yeah.
younglings. It is what it is.
That was, if you really think about it, after watching Clone Wars, that really like is so out of place for him
Yeah.
at that point, at that particular time.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just mows down a whole.
Yeah.
Maybe not though. He just lost his mom, like the only person he cared about.
Sure.
The other thing I had a kind of an issue with when he was, I think this was a redeeming factor for him too, is like, it is a. I felt like at this point it was more about Luke, you know, but maybe it isn't. Maybe it's again, it's one of these moments where it's like,
Well, I told you I watched the father, the son, the daughter, and I think he talks about that when he's talking to the father about killing the family when he was trying.
oh, he brings that up.
I think he does. I think
I think I only
I've seen
watched
it
that
recently, and I think I watched that. But
He actually turns to the dark side in that episode.
yeah, so he does. The son turns him.
And Ahsoka watches him turn.
Yeah.
So does Obi-Wan, I think.
Yeah, and Ahsoka, I forget why. How does she die? Anyway, she dies, and then the daughter
Resurrect.
with her life. So that's how she brings Ahsoka back to life.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And then Anakin kills the son with his lightsaber because the father stabs himself with the sword, and his son is upset that he killed himself. And then Anakin walks up and right in the back with his lightsaber. So he kills the son. So, and it says if Anakin doesn't stay there to control the balance for the father, that Anakin's going to go on and have the seat of the dark side, and he's going to, ruin the galaxy, which
He does.
he does. So
Yeah, that was the most like,
Yeah.
that was like a 2-part episode, I think.
It's 3.
3 parts. Yeah, it was like, what in the world are they doing on
go
this?
back and watch. It's fantastic.
It is fantastic.
So,
But it was like, it's pretty,
but that's why when we go forward now, it's like
I didn't want to get into that too much. I think
Yeah.
there's people that
Yeah,
spend
it's
way
true.
too much time analyzing the world between worlds and all this. I really think all that is, it was just a device to give her a place outside of where they are in order to have this transformation she needs. And because the real story is, for me in this show, because it really is Rebels season 5, is how the hell are they going to get Ezra back? You know what I mean?
And
Who cares about Thrawn? He knows he's going to
Thrawn.
show up. I don't care about that. Everybody's like Thrawn. I
I'll
want
tell
to
you
see him.
something. That's one bad dude
I
right
know
there.
he was pretty. Hey man, he was like one of the best villains in that in Star Wars for sure.
Yeah. And he's not a force wielder.
He's not.
No.
In fact, when he's first introduced, he has. I don't know if you remember this. Did you ever read the books?
No.
Okay, so in the books where he's first introduced, he has these creatures called Salamari. They're like little lizard cats, and he wears them around his neck because they emit like a bubble
No.
that basically negates the Force. So Luke can't do anything to him,
Yeah.
or no Jedi can, or no Force user
Right,
can,
right.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
But they haven't brought that into.
My love for
They haven't brought that
Thrawn
into the new canon.
is purely animation. So my wife's read them all.
Well,
In fact,
as
most
far
of
as
the
the
stuff's
character
hers.
goes, they pretty much translated from the books, I think, very well. Because Thrawn was very artistic and very calculating, and not like Vader to run in and just burn down a whole Star Destroyer to,
Yeah.
take a Star Destroyer and crash it into a planet. But
Which this is the first meeting of them, Thrawn and Vader.
as Vader, they didn't meet as Anakin
I
and
think.
Thrawn before that.
I think it's.
I don't remember. I read that series a long time ago.
I'll tell you. You talk and I'll open.
No, I do think he's one of the. Matt, did you watch Rebels?
Nope.
Not going to, are you?
Maybe.
I actually, honestly, man, it's actually one of the better shows.
I love Rebels.
Each episode is really fun to watch. I just rewatched it recently, start to finish, and enjoyed it as much, if not more, the second time around. Because the scenes that the scenes of actually, it actually looks like Vader in Rebels, doesn't it?
Cool.
Yeah. The scenes where Kanan dies and stuff
Yep.
is very emotional. They do a good job with that with an animation, I thought.
And they kill a lot of people in Rebels. He was talking about it being a kid's show. Chopper kills a lot of people.
I actually couldn't remember that. What did Chopper do?
Nah.
He was a war criminal. What did he do?
I don't know.
He did something.
He's funny. They
No.
did him well in Ahsoka.
I like to see more of Chopper, honestly.
Yeah.
Because Chopper was a big character.
I like Sabine in in Ahsoka. I just want her to color paint something,
blow
blow
something
something up.
up.
And
Yeah.
it's they've done a real nice. And she's one that I think holds guilt, but from Ezra, not from obviously. Ahsoka's guilt is with Anakin, Sabine's is with Ezra. So
She was always very dismissive of Ezra most of the series, and
that's why I think Zeb needs to be in there, because Zeb and Ezra were like two peas in a pod.
well, they were roommates.
Yeah. Well, they always did stuff together.
Yeah, they were boys.
Yeah.
Well, the whole crew of the Ghost is very tight knit.
Correct.
And they, when Kanan dies, it shatters the whole thing, and
Yeah.
then Ezra sacrifices himself, and they all go their separate ways.
Yeah. Well, but in Mandalorian, Zeb was with I forget his name, the X-Wing
Carson.
pilot. Carson was with
Yeah.
him at the bar, and now Carson's here. So, what's Zeb? Why is Zeb not around? I don't understand.
Well, I don't know.
Costs a lot of
if
money.
we can get into the metaphorical weeds here, but there's a lot of politics going on with where X-Wing pilots can and can't go.
Yeah.
You see that a lot because my Moth was like, "No, you find this lady yet? Nope. You got to come back to base." It's like,
Yeah.
and it seems like the only one that's letting them kind of get away with things is Leia, who's just in name only because they're not going to probably put her on screen.
No. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I this episode for me was Matt. I got to bring you in on this one, okay? Because you said when I talked to you last, you were like, "I just finished episode. I'm struggling to get through episode 1." All right, why is that? And then you said you finished it, so I want to hear that part too. What was your struggle with episode 1?
I thought it was exceptionally badly written, quite boring, but more badly written than boring.
Turn his mic off. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Well, again, and this is the argument y'all were having before we started the show was, we recognized so much in the first episode that we were like, ooh, that's cool. You got Ryder, Governor Azadi, he's there, and you got Lothal. That's exciting.
That's correct. Love Lothal.
Yeah. And Matt was talking about, oh, look at where she's living. And then you got to say, well, that's where Ezra's from. That's his little hideout from very
first episode.
very first episode.
Yeah.
That was his home.
Well, that highway.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
That highway. I don't know why. It's one of my favorite locations in all of Star Wars now for some reason. I think it's just the fact that it's this really, really long highway that goes out into the wilderness.
So I've been listening to you guys talk for the last 30 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Right? And you've been saying some great stuff. Some really interesting stuff.
I want to hear
some really cool character stuff, some really cool story stuff. It'd be absolutely friggin' amazing if that was actually in the shows.
What are you talking about?
Nothing of what you've said. All this stuff you talk to about Sabine's struggle with Ezra and everything. That's not in the show at all. Nowhere.
Oh, I know what he's talking about. It's not in the show.
Yeah.
It's not in the show.
What's in the show?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
A bunch of unlikable characters. What's in the show?
Do you still feel
What?
that way after
Okay, let's
episode
just-
5?
Episode 5? Did you feel
Let's
that way?
just start with Sabine.
Okay. Go with
From
Sabine.
frame 1, she is incredibly unlikable and never comes back. There's no reason to root for her character, be interested in what she's doing, want her to succeed. One, because we don't know what she's trying to do. except to try and get to Ezra. What drives that? Why that's important? It's nothing. There's none of it is there.
Hold your thought.
Now you're gonna tell me that you have to watch Rebels to be there.
Hold on. Actually,
no.
Matt, I understand your point of view.
Well, I appreciate that.
I mean, I can understand that.
This is all about perspective.
Doesn't mean it's right. I can understand.
No,
that.
hold on. One of the things we talked about with this show was that we wanted to talk about perspective, because for us, all right, Star Wars started when we were kids, all right?
Right.
And we saw the original trilogy. That's all we had up until they were launched episode 1, all right? So the same thing goes true here. And then all these kids your kids, their Star Wars is not your Star Wars. Their Star Wars is Clone Wars and Rebels. And
Mine is definitely
and the
animated.
sequels, tragically, all right? That's their Star Wars, okay? Matt's not had Clone Wars and Rebels backstory. So for him, this is honestly, I can't argue against the fact that it was not a mistake on Disney and Filoni's part. Was just assuming, how do I tell this story, all right, without having seen those other shows?
Yeah. Hey, Matt, what are you watching now?
Like just in my everyday.
So what are you watching to understand?
I don't understand the question.
So aren't you watching Clone Wars now or Rebels?
I've watched. No, I've not watched any Rebels. I'm through season 1 of the Clone
Right.
Wars, a couple episodes of.
So what if this is forcing people to go back and watch that stuff? Like that was the plan. Like you and I understand this, and maybe he's a Star Wars fan, but hadn't watched the
I am going
animated.
to assume
Yeah.
at any point going forward that any intention on anything pushed out on Disney Plus is meant to keep eyeballs on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Whether that's we're going to put half the season out this month and half the season out next month, it's like
Right.
we're trying to keep people on the platform because that's all the investors care about. It's like, who is watching this thing?
Yeah.
It don't matter if the content's good. It just matters
So-
that they log on and look at it.
So if your thesis is
That's a big word, man.
that
We're in a comic book store. We don't talk
I'm
about.
watching Ahsoka, henceforth, it's going to spin me into watching this stuff that I've missed,
maybe.
I see what you're saying.
then-
Then they're doing a piss poor job of it.
and you've done bad story.
Well, let me ask you this:
That is not.
did watching Andor, had you not seen Rogue One, would it make you want to go watch Rogue One? Would anything in Andor make you want to go watch Clone Wars or Rebels?
Andor, yeah, I might have wanted to watch Rogue One if after I had seen Andor.
So I have a question, Matt. Did you like Andor?
I thought Andor was the best Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back.
That was slow.
I don't understand like the
Painful.
difference here. Like we're
I
all
don't know.
all of the same mind really when it comes to Star Wars, but truthfully, this is like I can't say that, but we watched it every week. Matt binge watched it,
That's true.
and I wonder if it's different because
It
I haven't
probably-
actually gone back and binge watched it.
I
Wait,
don't know that I will.
We're gonna talk about how Andor's slow, and this last episode of Ahsoka had 10 minutes of Anakin and Ahsoka, and 45 minutes of Hera floating around in her spaceship trying to look at the water. That was fast.
They did have lightsaber fights. They had the
They
Clone Wars
they had
flashbacks.
the cool whales, the space
Yeah,
whales,
the
Purrgil.
space whales, thank you.
Purrgils.
Yeah.
Purrgils.
Thank you.
Do you know what those are? I mean, you haven't seen
He doesn't.
Rebels?
That
so-
again, it's like
Those
he said.
space whales.
They're space whales then that go through hyperspace.
Hey man, you just go like Star Trek, okay? I'm kidding.
You know what was great about the whole Star Trek versus Star Wars thing?
Oh, here we go.
Star Wars could always say that we had 3 greats, and Star Trek had so many misses.
Yeah.
I wish that was still the same,
Now they're both
the
just.
diametric.
I can't say that Star Trek is. They've had a lot of duds lately.
Yeah, here we go. Stay on target. Stay on target.
I'm just saying,
We'll
Star
always
Trek
go-
has had a lot of
Stay
duds.
on target.
Always go back
And
to
I'm a
Star Trek in
Trekkie.
this show.
I like Star Trek too.
Yeah, y'all are definitely. I mean, I like Star Trek, but I was.
Look, I lost you
I
at
tell
Lord
what-
of the Rings.
I tell you what, Matt, I was with Star Trek probably like you are with Star Wars. I watched them and just they were good. They passed the time, but I didn't
Star
get
Trek?
into 'em. Yeah, I like Star Trek. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But but it wasn't. I'm not into it like Star Wars.
Well, I think people are gonna. It's all subjective. You know, people take away with what they want to take away with, and people find certain things more interesting than others, which is what makes all this fun anyway. Which is what makes what we do here in the comic store fun. It's because we can all look at it from a different perspective and really see that, you know, this is what I want to take away from this, because, and that's what truly a story should do. One of the things one of my college professors said, this is one of my English professors, he says, it doesn't matter what argument you make as long as you can support it with the story. So you can make any argument you want, but all you have to do is back it up with what you're saying, with what you've read, the source material. I think, you know, when you get into big film franchise like this, you got so many people doing so many different things. I don't disagree with Matt. There's some bad writing out there, especially in this show. All right. I think we can sort of kind of shove that off to the side because we're so excited about the fact that the Ghost is in it and Chopper's in it and the characters we love are in it. We get to see Rex in live action for the first time, and that was exciting, even though it was brief, you know. It's just we want everybody to hit a home run every time. You know, we were kind of conditioned with that, with some of the things we had growing up. But again, it's all perspective, you know.
Well, so, you know, and Matt,
it's kind of hard to take ourselves out and put ourselves in, you know, into a place where the first thing we were exposed to was, you know, The Force Awakens.
Matt, you know, Matt's not wrong probably about this show. It's more nostalgia for me, and probably you, is seeing all that than where, again, somebody that hasn't watched that like Matt is maybe confused, or you don't understand the backstory, so you don't really get into it as much as maybe we do.
And Matt, maybe we can talk about this a little bit too, but I think there's an inability. I don't know if it's intentional because it's meant to keep people on the platform. Right. Again, I think everything is about keeping people on the platform. But the ability to wrap up something in one episode is being lost. Like it's like Tom King's writing. Like, bro has to unpack it over 18 episodes for it to be awesome. You know, and I don't think any of this stuff is awesome.
Can I address?
Yeah.
I'd like to address this idea of tapping into the nostalgia or having to having to see. Okay, so Andor, right? I don't. Everything that I need, both as a Star Wars fan and as somebody who's never touched Star Wars before, I can go into Andor and I can learn everything that I need to know about the Empire, everything I need to know about the Rebellion, and everything I need to know about the personalities that motivated that. As a longtime fan, somebody who's grew up with it, all of that knowledge that I already had of the Empire, of the Rebellion, is colored on 5 or 6 levels deep, more than I ever had. I can come at it either way and be completely enriched. That's how good that show is. I get none of this out of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And I get none of this out of a lot of the modern Star Wars, quite honestly. A lot of the Filoni stuff.
Where do you rank Rogue One in all the movies, Matt?
My problem with Rogue One is, this is what I say about Rogue One. I think Rogue One was one of the best story ideas ever to come out of the Star Wars universe, to tell the story about how they got the Death Star plans. However, I think the execution was very poor.
I
ultimately didn't care about Cassian. I did not care about Cassian in Rogue One.
So this is my thing about this is why I think this is my big difference between Rogue One and Star Wars Rebels. All right, and I think this is maybe I like that we're getting into this because I think we're kind of answering some questions. I honestly couldn't care less about any character in Rogue One except Darth Vader.
Oh, that's the best scene.
All right, that's the only person. That's the only character in the whole movie that I would like. That I even cared to follow their existence. All right,
I'm one with the Force.
Their relationship was good, but it was like I don't care. I'd never invested myself emotionally in those characters, and I think part of like any story is like you want to invest in the character and what's at stake for that character, and because what's at stake for that character is what's at stake for you as the reader or the viewer. And I think in Rogue One, we never really. I don't know if we knew they were all going to die, or we just didn't care. Because truthfully, I don't care about Jyn Erso or Cassian Andor. That as far as the whole Star Wars goes, the Rebels characters is a whole different conversation. Now, granted, I had 4 seasons to unpack those characters, but I love those characters from start.
But that's why Matt probably likes Cassian and Andor and not in Rogue One, because he had several episodes. He had a series to really appreciate
Matt,
the character.
I'll tell you why Matt really loves Rogue One.
Why?
Matt, cue up that monologue. Because it really, like, I don't really care about the characters in Andor.
Yeah.
But what Andor does do, and this is what Matt's talked about, is that it really.
So, a couple things.
Sorry, Matt.
First of all, I don't know what monologue you're talking about.
The big monologue at the end of Andor, with the dude with the guy in the place.
I don't know. I saw that movie once. I never saw it again.
It's not a movie. It's a TV show.
Oh, Andor.
Andor.
I'm sorry. My bad. My bad.
You think Rogue One?
You're over there saying it's trash?
Okay, my bad,
No,
my bad,
Andor,
my
not
bad,
Rogue One.
my bad.
Andor, the big monologue at the end on the bridge with the dude and the guy.
Right. And to be fair about Rogue One, and I agree 100% with both of what you said. I think those characters are, when your 2 main characters are dying on the beach and you don't
care. You're like, go Death Star.
Yeah, it wasn't like,
narrative.
oh, I can't believe him killed him. You know?
We're actually excited about the Death Star blowing up the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
My friend Brian, while you're queuing this up, Matt, my friend Brian had issues with the last scene of Rogue One.
Yeah.
Because when we see Darth Vader for the first time in Star Wars, they blow open the door and he comes into the Tantive 4 and he's like, and then he just kind of bebops in, right?
Right.
And like at the end of Rogue One, he's like at a 10. This only happened like minutes before Star Wars, right?
Shredding them.
He's at a 10, shredding people, throwing them through the airlock. I mean, it was like the most badass scene we've ever seen in Star Wars.
Correct.
And then in the next thing you see, he's like, he goes from a 10 to like a 2.
Yeah.
As far as his energy level.
Yeah.
And maybe he chilled out between the time they captured that ship and the time,
You'd think he'd come in there like, all right, I'm going to find her and I'm going to cut this whole ship apart until I do.
You would think. I mean, if you were watching it succinctly.
Right.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever done like episode 1 and watched it all?
I've watched them in order, but not like I haven't ended one and then immediately started
1, 2, 3, 4, and then go to Rogue One, or even throw in Solo.
Solo was okay.
All right, watch this monologue here.
Tell me why we're really here today, Lonnie.
I can't do this anymore. I'm a father now. I had no idea how it would feel.
We took a vow.
I'm giving you Dedra Miro. I'm giving you Spellhouse. I'm warning you about Ferrix. I'm honoring my vow. I've been working my way through there for 6 years. Working my way up. Alone.
So what was your plan? Gather a big basket of goodies for me as a farewell gift? What were you planning to tell the ISB?
My health. My wife's family has an import business.
Even as you say the words, you know it's impossible. We can't let you go, Lonnie. We can't spare you. We've been grooming you for too long, and yes, you've been alone. Your career has profited greatly from information that we've provided. Information that cost me dearly. You love your daughter. Krieger's men will be dying to make sure she has a father. You're trapped, Lonnie. There's no pleasure in saying it, but you're going nowhere.
My sacrifice means nothing to you, does it?
I said I think of you constantly, and I do. Your investment in the rebellion is epic. The double life, every day a performance, the stress of that. We need heroes, Lonnie, and here you are.
And what do you sacrifice?
Calm. Kindness, kinship. Love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything! Just stay with me, Lonnie. I need all the heroes I can get.
Powerful scene. I think I kind of like had a little bit of an epiphany watching this. And I think, again, it's going back to what I said. This is all about perspective, dude. And but before I get into that, Matt, why do you love this whole show?
I will take one of those scenes for 45 lightsaber scenes. That scene right there explains so much about who are the people behind this thing. It's I mean, and it's just not that scene. It's everybody in this movie. It's Mon Mothma sacrificing her daughter to this cause. It's Andor's unwillingness to get involved because he has his own selfish reasons until he sees what it is that this thing. You know, he sees the evil of the Empire and then realizes that where his place is within that equation, as Luthen talks about. The whole show is this, and it's absolutely amazing.
What's your perspective there, Loren? Your wheels, I can see the gears are turning. What are you thinking?
So I think it just goes into what Matt's personal preference is in movies.
I think it's a little bit more than that.
But no, I mean, look, when you say you would rather have that than 45 lightsaber scenes, I would say that I would much rather have a lightsaber scene than that. I mean, I go back to why I like Star Wars in my youth and what attracted me to it. That's why, so you talk about the Darth Vader scene. That's what I like to watch in Star Wars. That's what I like to see is just those type of characters. Where you obviously like, this is great storytelling, right? I can recognize that, Matt. I mean, Andor is a different type of series than what Ahsoka is, or obviously the animated stuff. So, or Mandalorian.
I'm going to go one level deeper there with.
Challenge that real quick.
Sure.
Lightsaber scenes aren't what they used to be.
Well,
Luke versus Vader on Bespin told a story. Every swing of the lightsaber, every moment, that is a 3-act play. Act 1 at the chamber, Act 2 out there on the bridge, or in that space, and Act 3, thank you, hallway, and then 3 out there on the bridge. In each act, a different part of the story is being told. Vader's there. He's feeling Luke out. He's trying to understand him. He's setting the seeds of trying to convince him. The second one, he wants to see how good he is with the Force. He brings the Force in. The third act is when he finally puts him on his ass and says, okay, now you know what you're dealing with. I'm going to extend my hand. That is a story. I don't see that in anything Ahsoka has done, frankly, anything that since the Phantom Menace. The poetry that was in the lightsaber battles in Empire, New Hope, and Jedi is not there anymore.
I agree with you, Matt. I think I've always said this for a long time, and it's the reason why I'm not really a big fan of like John Wick movies, because it is all action driven and it's unmotivated action. It's just action for the sake of action, which is something you would see like in a CW show like Arrow. Mm-hmm. Boo! All of a sudden there's these dudes that jump in an alley and just so they can have a fist fight. Mm-hmm. That I understand. Take one level deeper as far as Andor goes. You said this is great storytelling, but this is great visual storytelling. Mm-hmm. See, I noticed things in this, maybe you did too, mm-hmm. in the way it's actually shot, the mm-hmm. sounds, where they're at, the location, the actors. That is top shelf cinema. Mm-hmm. But it's this. Here's where I think we are. Andor is adult audience. Mm-hmm. The rest of the stuff is not meant for that. It's for the younger mind who wants the lightsaber fights, who wants the Darth Vader scenes, the Jedi. That's what the rest of this stuff is.
Right.
I think that's why Matt likes DS9 so much more than I do. Because I like TNG because I like the characters and I like what they go through. Mm-hmm. DS9, the characters get more complicated. Their stories get complicated. They get more complex, mm-hmm. and there's a place for that, but not everybody can digest that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I think it all comes down to, again, the perspective of the audience. What is it? Who's watching it? And what are they going to walk away from? Mm-hmm. Now, having said that, I do think Ahsoka does fall short on some of its narrative.
Yeah.
Because Matt, the argument he was making before we started the show was, if I've got to go watch 6 episodes of Clone Wars and 6 seasons of Clone Wars and 4 seasons of Rebels to understand 5 episodes of Ahsoka, somebody doesn't know how to tell a story.
That's a problem. Right.
And that's kind of probably, at the end of the day, right, what my issues with Ahsoka are, is that it should be a little more contained. Right. What I love about it is I love the characters. I love seeing the characters. I want to see the characters. I want to see them do them more. And so there is always going to be this element of disappointment because they're never going to live up to what I'm hoping they're going to be. Now, maybe we'll get surprised here in the 6th episode, but I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned that Matt was really in the DS9.
Yeah.
I had a hard time watching DS9. I mean that shouldn't be a surprise. I had a hard time watching Andor. It took several episodes for me to really start to watch it.
I think it goes for me. I just never cared about Cassian Andor from Rogue One, so I was like, I'm never going to get it. I wanted it to be what I wanted to see out of Andor. Now, I appreciate all the things that Matt loves about it, a lot. I think the whole thing with Mon Mothma, it's really interesting to see that side of her character. Sure. Because what we've seen of her so far has always been this regal, upstanding senator that everybody revered. Not this person that's willing to sacrifice her own daughter for the cause. That's crazy, right?
Right.
Keeping secrets from her own husband and that's how serious it was. One thing I would have really liked to have seen in Andor, this is a Star Wars fan of me talking, is I wanted to see the Emperor on the bureaucratic side without the Force, without using the Force, without pulling out a lightsaber, without fighting a Jedi, but just how he and his minions sort of navigated behind the scenes. That's something I was always interested in anyway. It's like, how did he actually govern the galaxy?
Right.
Or was it just that, he's sitting back in his throne room smoking a big stogie going, yo, Thrawn, man, get out there and make some stuff happen, you know. the Hutts aren't paying their taxes, you know.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
get out there and straighten them out, you know. Yeah. Or like, I would like to have seen that part. But other than that, I mean, it's like, truth of the Star Wars fan of me, I don't hate any of this stuff.
No, none of it. Look, I'll take
except
all
for
I can
Last
get.
Jedi. It's like,
Well,
and people say Rise of Skywalker, but that's only bad because Last Jedi was so bad. But Last Jedi is literally like forever going to. I'm going to die because unhappy because of Ryan Johnson. There's a special level of hell for people like Ryan Johnson.
It's just
reserved for child molesters and people who talk at the movies.
Stay on target. Stay on target. So, Ahsoka.
Ryan Johnson's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's probably why I like the first one, Force Awakens. It's because of all the nostalgia in it.
That's all right. Everybody liked it. That's why everybody liked the Flash movie. It's because it had.
I watched that.
Those kids came in here. I was like, "Oh, did you watch the Flash? Yeah, we saw it." Well, I'm like, "What did you think, guys?" And they were like, "Oh, we loved it. Oh, what'd you love about it? Oh, Batman was in it. Is that what you took away from this whole movie? The Batman was in the Flash movie? That movie sucked. I'm never going to get those hours of my life back."
I didn't mind it.
I didn't feel that way out, Andrew. I actually waited for every episode. But it really didn't get exciting until they started blowing stuff up. And that's just the whole kid me wanting to see stuff blow up.
Well, and I think that go back to what I said a few minutes ago is I like the lightsaber scenes. Now, I do understand what you're talking about, the storytelling with the lightsaber, Matt. But, man, just some of the – even the scene in Mandalorian when Luke Skywalker rips through all those –
yeah, that was like that was pretty badass.
that was right up there. And then you think Obi-Wan when really some of the battles they had in Obi-Wan and just kind of how that builds throughout the
but I've always
series is awesome.
I think what makes the lightsaber fight in Episode 1 at the end so awesome is just the music.
Oh yeah,
the music is iconic.
Built it the whole time,
and that plays in. That's probably the last. I never thought that the lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin on Mustafar was as awesome as Episode 1. And I thought the one with Count Dooku and Yoda, that was just goofy.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't like
bouncing.
Obi-Wan gets knocked out and Anakin loses his arm, and then here comes Yoda fighting this like geriatric guy.
That's right.
It was kind of, and he goes bouncing and flipping around and all this stuff, and they're both old.
Yeah,
it's like, is this really what we're dealing with here? And then and even though it was really cool and there were some cool scenes, in Episode 3, but it's still like the last really cool Jedi fight scene was. Yeah. Although there was some cool.
Well,
what'd you say, Matt?
I was going to say, I think what's lacking behind a lot of the lightsaber scenes is the subtext of the two. Now, we all liked Luke at coming in there because that's what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see Luke, and we're never going to get a chance to see Luke at his height. So that was important to see that. But in Ahsoka, because I think we're short on motivation about what is bothering Ahsoka, and what is Anakin's lesson, and if you want to go back into that, I got words about that, but that there should be a layer of subtext between their fight, and it's not there for me. I don't see that
in their lightsaber fight.
Their
lightsaber fight was actually pretty awesome because I went back and watched it. It was kind of fun, but I understand exactly what you're saying. It's like, why is he, like, he pulls her into this, they're in this world, they're talking, and all of a sudden it's like, well, Snips, you're just never going to learn. And he pulls out a lightsaber and starts attacking her, and it's like, and then pushes her into the Clone Wars, and it's like, it is a little like, what in the hell is going on in this show? It's like, then you have to go and really kind of understand that this is this transformation for her. It's, again, there is this assumption, I think, in these shows where you feel like, I've got to have context in order for this to be relevant. And I just don't think.
I'm trying to, like, as you talk and Matt talks, I'm trying to put myself in Matt's shoes of not seeing Rebels,
sure,
and Clone Wars, and I can see like he's like, what the hell is this mess? What's going on right now? I don't really know what the relationship between you know it because it's you hear things of Padawan and Master.
Well, I kind of felt that way watching Rebels. Think about when you first saw Rebels, and then Ezra's in this world between worlds.
Yeah, but that's well into that series.
Sure, but it's still like, what the hell is this?
Well, but I mean, it's pretty cool though how they do it, right? I mean, it's the wall and the temple, and he makes the wolves move, and he goes through, right?
Yeah.
So, that didn't bother me. What I'm saying is, I can see where Matt is because again, that's animation. You can definitely do a lot more with that, I guess, right? From a storytelling standpoint, somewhat.
Not anymore.
Well, but I can see where your point of view is with this, Matt. And to be honest with you, when you guys heard me, when Ahsoka first came out, the first few episodes, I was like, I'm not real happy with what they're doing with Ahsoka right now. But I wasn't really thinking about her
the
character.
title show is Ahsoka.
Right.
But it's always been, it seems like the main character is Sabine.
Well, there's that. But, so I understand, I get it. This is actually
plastic.
this is a great character piece that Ahsoka has to deal with the legacy of her master and how that reflects upon her.
Correct.
And how people see her.
Correct.
But I don't see her struggling with that. They've mentioned it, but I don't see her struggling with that. It's not being shown to me that is the problem that she is dealing with.
Yeah.
That is what she needs to overcome. If that is indeed what we're talking about here, and I think it is.
It is, and I think why you haven't seen it is because she's not had like some kind of a character outburst or done something, unforgivable or made a big mistake, because everything she's done, like since we've seen her in live action, was, oh wow, his name is Grogu. He's a Jedi too. He was a Padawan. He was a youngling in the Jedi Temple and blah blah blah. Can you train him? Nope. Why not? Well, because my master went crazy and killed everybody. So no, from day one, it's always been, she's been, what's the phrase? Passive.
Yeah, I mean, she's been skeptical.
Passively avoidable to any conflict.
Yeah. I mean, she second guesses herself constantly.
Yeah.
And so here's one thing that bothers me, Matt, and we talked about this a little earlier, and when I go back and think about, I don't know why they had to make, Sabine is a Mandalorian, right? House of Ren. They did not need to add in this element that Ahsoka was trying to train her at some point. I could have left that
and
alone.
I'll say this, that part is like, for me, has been perplexing from go, even from the trailers. There was never a moment in Rebels where, well, I guess you could argue this one, when Sabine gets the Darksaber and Kanan is training her how to use it.
Right.
All they do is kind of like say, well, she's not a Force user. She doesn't know how to use the Force. And then Kanan's arguments that the Force is in everything, I'm
one with the Force.
I guess. Stay on target.
Stay on target.
But there's never a moment where she's like actively like, want to train to be a Jedi, because she says, I don't know how to use the Force. So I don't get that unless they're going to have some kind of big.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do too much. If you just go back to, if you can go to her character not having struggles with trying to be a Jedi or a Force user, and just wanting to go rescue her friend and use her Mandalorian skills, explosive skills, let her paint something, be who Sabine is.
I did think that was kind of a badass moment when she was fighting Shin Hati and like, she like sticks her hand up like that, yeah. And the girl's like,
and nothing happens.
And she's like, you don't have any power, and then she shoots her with that whatever.
but that's who she is. That's actually, that moment is more Sabine,
Sabine than anything else we've seen.
And there needed to be more smirk to her when she's doing that, right? Not that she actually thinks she can use it, that she's just like, haha, nana.
I actually think, and this goes back to what we've been talking about, man, I don't know what her motive. I think honestly what's playing into Ahsoka's lack of motivation is what the heck is Sabine's.
Yeah, well, I don't get, okay,
I don't honestly.
first of
Honestly,
all,
I don't know either.
Okay, so let me answer that, and then I got a question.
Sure. Okay.
Or postulate something to you guys.
Sure.
So right. So I don't know what. I realize that she has some sort of connection to Ezra that is driving her character to the point where she will drop everything to go find him. But she is somebody who doesn't particularly have any other goals, interests. That to me is not enough to drive character, and because it is so singular, that she becomes unlikable as a character.
Okay.
That she's arrogant.
Sure.
She
Was always arrogant.
She's a Mandalorian.
Okay. Well, that's great, and I agree with you 100%. I think that she should be focused on. We should focus her character on that aspect.
What's your question?
But is the kickback that Star Wars got over Andor with the primarily critique that it wasn't quote unquote Star Wars because it didn't have lightsabers, driving future Star Wars away from that to make sure everybody has some aspect of the Force, everybody can use a lightsaber. So we don't have any more Andors.
Sure.
Out there.
I think one of the cool things about, to answer your question, if that's the case, then this is the worst written show on the planet. Because there's no imagination. I'm not even going to use the word creativity. I'm going to say nobody has an imagination here. Sabine's character, her motivation is sort of twofold driven. One, Sabine is a Mandalorian, and if after watching the Mandalorian show, you know that Mandalore doesn't exist anymore, so she's lost her entire planet. And in Rebels, she sort of has lost her entire actual family, because of the fighting, with the Empire.
Purge.
Yeah, the Mandalorian Purge. Her family died in the Purge. So her only family really that she had, because she does leave the Ghost Crew for a few episodes.
Well, she goes back to Mandalore, and she's there with her mom.
Correct.
And then
but
Ezra
she comes back
and gets her.
Yeah, to save.
She comes to Adelon.
Yeah.
Adelon.
Anyway, she leaves for a little while. But her only my point is, after her real family's gone, her only family was the Ghost Crew, and she lost them too. And I guess towards the end of the series, she got pretty tight with Ezra, especially after Kanan died.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so she really suffered a lot losing Kanan, because her family rejected her for years because she had joined the Empire as a young person. But when Kanan's gone, she sort of bonds more with Ezra after that, and then she loses him. So my only thing, Matt, is, and this is not just me trying to justify this, it's just really only thing I can think for her motivation is that finding Ezra is like sort of, fixing a missing part of who she is.
Is Ahsoka before or after Mandalorian?
It's after.
And why the hell did Ahsoka go, hey man, we found some Mandalorians. This dude called Mando.
Somebody brought that up.
There's this dude called Mando, and by the way, Bo-Katan's still alive too.
Yeah, Bo-Katan. By the way, there's these coverts all over the galaxy. By the way,
they're everywhere. I can phone a friend right now.
I thought it was supposed to take place before.
Is it?
Is it?
I don't know.
Because in Mandalorian, Ahsoka's wearing. Maybe season 3 is after Ahsoka.
I'd have to look that up.
But the scene from season 2 is before Ahsoka.
Because I can tell you right now, if I'm going to go after Thrawn, I'm going to make a pit stop and pick up Mando first.
Hey, listen, bro. We got 3 more episodes. Don't be shocked if Hondo and
it's true.
Luke, and all these people show up in this show.
Hondo. I don't think Cad Bane's dead either, but
I don't think he is either.
No,
I didn't. But he killed off Quill and Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, but his little chest was blinking.
Oh yeah. Anyway, no, I think the time-wise, like in Mando season 2, when Ahsoka fights Morgan Elsbeth, that's where they arrest her, because at the beginning of the season they break her out of jail.
Right.
So that had to have taken place before. And she's also wearing the gray shirt. And
Yeah. That's
So-
true. That's true. Wow.
I think that part, there is some out of continuity, and give it to Dave Filoni. I mean, he did that in Clone Wars, but like the very first, when Ahsoka shows up in episode 1 of this series and picks up Sabine, and Sabine cuts her hair and she taps the wall. That's the whole last scene of Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's all out of continuity, bro. But I do think it takes place after Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I don't know about season 3 though.
it's
That may be kind of
Yeah.
happening all at
it
the same
fits in.
time.
I'm really trying to figure out why I'm looking at bundle wrap right now. But yeah.
I'm not sure what they're doing on my computer back there.
No
That's not
idea.
going across the internet.
Yeah. So, but I again, I think probably for me, Ahsoka right now is probably more nostalgia than anything. I loved seeing live action Clone Wars in there.
Well, I did too. There was a lot I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
For the fanboy in me, loved a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of probably not as far opposites as you and Matt probably are at this point, but it's like there's some things that I agree with Matt on.
So
I'm like, I think there could be better storytelling, but I could say that about a bazillion things out there right now.
He's the son. I'm the daughter. You're the father.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
Keeping the balance in the force.
I'm the light side. He's the dark side.
On that note, I think we've talked this to death.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun. I love getting into these arguments, especially around here in the shop. So for those of y'all watching, y'all, thanks for kind of tuning in. Make sure you give us a big follow, a like, and subscribe. Let's have some comments on there. What were your favorite Ahsoka moments? What are some of your favorite Star Wars moments?
End it with that.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite. We'll end it with this. This is one of my favorite moments from Return of the Jedi.
Think about the
scene.
The similarities.
Yeah, similarities in Ahsoka. Cue that up for us, Matt.
I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So be it, Jedi.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love Star Wars.
There was the lightsaber way. You brought that up earlier.
I thought it was.
Ahsoka
Yeah, he thought it was the
did that.
lightsaber. She did that too. She thought.
Yeah.
I think that's what.
Yeah.
That's one thing he learned too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He chose light. Chose to live.
Because that's what Anakin didn't choose.
That's correct.
He says, "I choose to fight,"
That's correct.
which ultimately led to his death.
Yeah.
So I think that's a clutch moment. It's a clutch thing to end with.
Yeah.
Just then, from a fanboy standpoint, when the dude lit up that green lightsaber for the first time when I was a kid, I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Matt and I were talking about it. I think that's my favorite movie is Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I mean, mainly I was 10 when it came out.
Sure.
So
It's probably because the one you remember the most.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but anyways.
It's been fun talking Star Wars with you, Loren. I
Anytime.
love talking Star Wars. I know for most of us that have watched this all of our lives, it's been a emotional roller coaster. But there are things I think we can enjoy from all of these shows. I don't believe Dave Filoni is the Emperor himself, or a dark side. He's the dark side. I think he's a fanboy, just like anybody else, trying to do his best, and God knows what he's having to really deal with on the political side of this stuff. But to take some words from my friend Bubby, man, that kid, he's like, I'm just happy that there's Star Wars out there.
Yeah.
Now they may have milked it and ruined it for all it's worth. We could probably argue that too, but there's always probably something to look forward to. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about next time. Maybe we'll get into Lord of the Rings. I don't know who I would bring in for Lord of the Rings, because
I think we just stop and listen.
And listen. I'd have to. It's so much to remember, man. You think the Star Wars universe is convoluted?
All I got to do is put out that map. Like
map?
That one day you got some poster with the map of of Middle Earth or something, and you spent 45 minutes telling me everything on that map.
Well, I was trying to explain to the fact that at one time that map was twice the size.
Like, who knows that? Like, it's my
Any
point.
Tolkien nerd knows that.
Yes, 1%, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, listen, man, it's getting kind of late, but again, thanks for coming on the show,
Absolutely,
man. We
brother.
love having you. Love having you in the store,
Thanks.
buddy. So for Tommy and Joey and Matt and big shout out to Brooke back
Brooke,
there
yeah.
she was on the 10s and the 2s tonight.
Joey, feel better?
Joey, we hope you feel better. And we will see you guys inside the shop. See y'all on the hill.
We'll see you.
Later, son.